Hey guys, Delrith here, bringing you another rapid-fire style review, this time for the FPS roguelike survival game, Genesis Alpha 1. Genesis Alpha 1 was developed by Radiation Blue and is currently only available on the Epic Game Store. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to have time to fully play through this game with all the betas and everything coming out, to give it a fair shake and do everything it has to offer. However, with the state of the game and how short things fell of expectations, I was able to truly test this game and see what it had, what little it had to offer. So first things first, let's talk about the game's graphics. Genesis's graphics are not flattering in the slightest. I'd say at most points I would struggle to call them average, and there are very many things in the game that I'd consider just plain unattractive to look at. I don't know where any of them are. At no point was I impressed with anything shown to me throughout the gameplay, and the audio didn't win any points for the review either. Most of all the character models and alien models in the game look kinda janky or honestly like things you'd expect to find in an open source website for models in Unity, and I'm pretty sure in fact I've seen a good number of the assets in other games and mods, so off the top of my head, if you compare the Troopers mod for Squad in this game, you'll notice some similarities. The weapon effects and visual designs in general are really lackluster, and nothing in regard to combat is at all what I would call flashy. I guess the best way to summarize this game's entire visual and audio appeal is meh. It was mostly disappointing throughout my play. I will say that the design for the text in the terminals was a pretty sweet retro spacey sort of callback, but ironically, with how iffy the rest of the game looked, it managed, to me at least, to make everything feel even cheaper in the visual sense. So, if the game is somewhat bland or even slightly ugly, how well does the gameplay carry it? And the sad truth is, not so much. In concept, the idea of managing a ship, building on it, and exploring a roguelike galaxy with randomly generated planets and events sounds pretty cool. The execution, however, in Genesis fails to live up to that expectation.
Accessing archives. 20%. 40%.
This is gonna get repetitive very quickly, isn't it?
60%.
Every single run in Genesis will start the same way, regardless of what faction you choose, a choice that supposedly drastically changes your gameplay, but I never really noticed. You'll build the bare minimum you need to not die horribly, and then spend the next hour or two jumping around, mining simple resources and hoping to find things like iron or copper. You won't actually leave your ship for quite some time until you can get a hangar and all your basic needs met, sometimes even taking up to an hour or so to get lucky and find iron or to even build a hangar. The building itself, too, is really clunky. It's like slapping Legos around in an outdated 3D design program and hoping that you don't screw yourself design-wise in the future. It really doesn't feel innovative in the slightest, but at least it isn't incredibly complicated and is fairly easy to pick up. However, I will say that the menu sorting made absolutely no sense for structures. A lot of them seem to be in the wrong area. If there's one cool thing from the process, it's that every single piece you put down, you're able to actually run through in first person and explore. There's no lag in this process, and I never encountered any bugs throughout my playthrough that made this a negative. I will say though, at later stages, when your ship gets big enough, it becomes necessary to have a teleporter, or you'll be spending minutes at a time going back and forth repeatedly. Modules you place have a specific purpose. A tractor beam room will gather resources, a cloning vat will produce clones, which are your crew, but they all need to be manned, which is slow, or manually operated to function correctly. This can become extremely tedious in a short period of time. I found myself being forced a lot of the time to manually control production as my clones and crew weren't even half as fast as I was at completing tasks. To even assign crew to modules, you have to run all the way back to the module and manually assign them. Some sort of overall control terminal or quick access interface would have been fantastic, but I'm convinced it doesn't exist. And don't even get me started on how stupid the clones are either. They're utterly worthless in any capacity outside of functioning idly on a module and doing jobs that don't require movement. The number of times that I would turn around for a moment only to have them stop shooting, stop moving, or die for just some weird reason was in the dozens, and I quickly grew to hate them. The clones also don't seem to know how to take
Access granted.
weapons. I tell them to take weapons, just don't want to take weapons. Even with all this bad so far, I still had hope in the exploration of planets. Flying down on a away team to discover new things. I thought it would be fun, but I was really wrong. Taking a ship down brings you to a very small circular area, one of, from what I saw, a dozen or so pre-made tile sets with your ship situated directly in the middle. Your crew you take with you will always head out and begin mining resources while you are tasked with finding artifacts that are on the planet. Each and every single artifact in the entire game is acquired by locating a point of interest in this incredibly small and limited zone, being recovered by standing there until a countdown finishes. You collect the artifact, which can be things like 5% more damage for guns or a blueprint, and then head back to your ship to leave. Your crew, at this point, will either have died from lack of functioning and knowing how to shoot the aliens that constantly spawn to attack you on the planet, or will have filled your ship up with resources and be waiting for you to leave. There's no further exploration to be done. There are no caverns that I found, no real cool alien battles, nothing. You go to every single planet, run around a tiny restrictive ring, get some resources and underwhelming artifacts, then leave. Rinse and repeat. This entire game is just that. That's the entire game as far as leaving the ship goes. Combat situations and events, or whatever you would call them, that happen on your ship itself are even more frustrating and ridiculous to deal with. And in multiple situations, I think mine personally bugged out. Pirates can invade your ship to attack you and apparently never stop teleporting in. Aliens can infest your ship's hallways with eggs and spawn an endless number of annoying enemies. A lot of the time it felt like even after clearing out the eggs 100% that would break, random bugs spawning in my walls and killing my crew nigh constantly. Oh, and the actual combat itself is a complete joke. Most weapons don't have a reload, most weapons don't have recoil, and the feel of each and every one is bad. Whoa! What the f***? Enemies stand there and let you shoot them without reacting, your crew gets shot without reacting, and it all just seems incredibly cheap and quickly put together. There was not a single point in the game where I actually felt like combat was a positive, as most of the time it just really showed off how early this release was seemingly pushed out. Also, there's really no diversity to enemy strength or really any tactics required. Everything just felt on par difficulty-wise, except for when things bugged out or didn't stop spawning. One final thing too, before we get to the score this game gets, if I recall correctly, the roguelike formula is meant to encourage you to start back over and want to continue playing, right? Genesis made me dread dying, and I dreaded starting over because of how entirely crap the beginning hour or two is. There are no mechanics or incentives to make restarting interesting or appealing, and it was honestly torture to redo all the tediousness each time I died. It's almost like nothing in this game was thought out, tested, or even marginally Q&A'd for fun. It felt like a chore the entire way through. With that and everything in mind, I'm going to give Genesis Alpha 1 a 4 out of 10. Like I said, it just felt below average the entire way through, and if this wasn't an indie game, I'd probably give it an even lower score, like a 3. In the end, it has all the ingredients necessary to make an amazing roguelike space cake, but the person who baked it screwed the recipe up royally. It had potential to be something truly unique, but in my opinion, it came out all wrong. And because of this, I have to suggest you stay away from it, at least until it's a couple bucks in the future. Anyway, that's going to be it for this rapid fire style review. If you liked it, do me a solid and hit that like button, and if you're already subscribed, ring that bell to get notifications on new videos in the future. Oh yeah, and if you like the rapid fire reviews or would like to see when I'm doing them live on Twitch, you can head over to my Twitter at AJSADelrith and give me a follow. I'd appreciate it. Until the next video, this is Delrith, and I'll be seeing you.